The conversation between Will Smith and Janet Hubert. Janet Hubert played the original Aunt Viv. Okay, coming in, black woman. Side note, black girls been magic. Gotta throw that out there. Black, dark-skinned, beautiful woman coming in there with the moves. Y'all know the iconic episode where she is in her leotard and dancing and showing the young girls up, showing those people a thing or two about how she can still do it. A lot of people watched it, but nobody's watching day to day, all day, unless you're me, and just love this stuff. Procedures are okay, but we want to know, where do you stand? And so I think the more that politicians stop trying to be politicians and be people, then that will engage voters. We reject alternative facts, so come on in here and let me educate you on the facts. Welcome everyone, my name is Quentin R. Giles and thank you so much for being here on The Q with Q. If you've been following or supporting me for a while, you know here at The Q we talk politics all day long, every day, because we need you to know what's going on in our political ecosystem. But what I really want to do is branch out, and so I am creating an entire new channel, an entire new stream of content called Beneath the Surface. Now it will still be under the Q, because you know when I created the name The Q with Q, it was never knowing what was going to pop into the Q, but Q would always explain it to you. And so in this series of Beneath the Surface, we are going to be unpacking some societal ills, some real things that people go through that are not centered around politics, although I'm pretty sure politics will make its way into this conversation because I just love it so much. But we are going to be talking about real things, you know, like daddy issues or how to survive exiting out of a traumatic relationship. Just situations and circumstances that everyday people find themselves in. So I am hopeful that you will take this journey with me into this new content that I'm producing. And I'm also hopeful that we learn some stuff, we unpack some stuff, we heal some stuff, and then we just push on and we thrive. Thank you again, and this is Beneath the Surface. So recently, a famed television show came out and did a 30-year reunion, and I was all the way pumped and excited for it because I grew up watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, that was one of the shows that my mom was absolutely okay with me watching. And so to see the cast come back together was something beautiful. It was so dope. To looking at the old set again, even the theme music that they slowed down in the reunion, it like made me tear up a little bit. The real conversation that I think we need to have and spend some time going beneath the surface and unpacking is the conversation between Will Smith and Janet Hubert. Janet Hubert played the original Aunt Viv. Okay, coming in, black woman. Side note, black girls been magic. Gotta throw that out there. Black, dark-skinned, beautiful woman coming in there with the moves. Y'all know the iconic episode where she is in her leotard and dancing and showing the young girls up, showing those people a thing or two about how she can still do it. That was probably one of my favorite episodes. But she got replaced as the series went on. And so back then there was so much talk about what actually happened. And then she ended up being replaced by another black woman who was a light-skinned black woman, which we may even do an episode here on Beneath the Surface about colorism and that whole dynamic and what that did, replacing a darker-skinned black woman with a lighter-skinned black woman, and what that did for the ecosystem at large and how we acted amongst our community. But there was so much misinformation that we didn't know was misinformation up until recently. So at the reunion, Will Smith said that, you know, he could not celebrate the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the 30 years without reconciling and acknowledging the original Aunt Viv and her contributions to the show. So they sat down and they had this reconciliation moment, which I thought was great in the reunion. What I really, really appreciated is that Will then went and did a red table talk, which we know his wife, Jada Smith, does. And he talked more about that interaction with Janet Hubert more specifically. And we actually got more footage in the red table talk that dealt with the conversation that Janet and Will had. And I think that was my favorite part of this whole saga of the Fresh Prince reunion. Yeah, the reunion was great. That was on HBO Max. But I think the red table talk was just so powerful. And I thought that it was so great to hear more of Janet's story, to find out what actually happened and, you know, why she left. And so what we see is that at that time, she wasn't protected. And let's be real, we as a society and we as black men at large just started protecting black women like 2.5 seconds ago. And so there was a feud, quote unquote, between Janet and Will back in the day, and there was a war of words in the public ecosystem. And so Will mentioned that Janet wanted the show to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air, or that she was difficult, which Janet describes as the kiss of death to a black woman, specifically a dark-skinned black woman. And we have to come into agreement with that. Again, especially in the 90s, we literally just started protecting black women, and we literally just got woke like 2 or 3 days ago, right? I am not a person that wants to demonize everybody for their past mistakes. We are always learning and evolving. Yes, absolutely. Some people need to be held to account, but we have to put things into context as well. And so we can't specifically just bash Will for his actions back then, although we hold him responsible, because we're going to get into that. We hold him responsible for what he did, but I'm huge on context. But I'm super elated that there was so much space provided for Janet to just share what was going on. How Sis was Juilliard trained. Okay, first off, gag on that. Sis was Juilliard trained, okay? Sis was a professional. She knew how to act. She knew how to sing. She knew how to dance. She came from Broadway to join this show. Sis had, one could say, a legitimate career before this show. And the reason I say that is not, the reason I say legitimate is not to downplay the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Will Smith. What I'm saying is they were in two totally different classes of entertainment, right? Will Smith even said himself that the Fresh Prince was a lifeline to him. He was a rapper prior to that, and he had just had an album flop, right? Which would have been the kiss of death for his career back in the day. But then he had this sitcom that the story of how it came about was hilarious. That's actually on the reunion special. You should check that out. But the sitcom, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, literally saved his career in entertainment because the rap career was going nowhere fast, right? So we have someone who was classically trained, who went to this prestigious school to train for the arts, darling, to come and join this show. Well, Aunt Viv was saying, you know, it was fun. Excuse me, Janet Hubert. Her name is not Aunt Viv. Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv, the original Aunt Viv, was saying, you know, one, there was a need for professionalism for her on the set that was not there because Will was a rapper and had a certain lifestyle. His idea of how the set should be, and because the show was centered around him, was something different that Janet was not used to, although she had fun. She also decided and was brave enough to disclose to us and to the world that she was going through an abusive relationship with a newborn on a set that she felt like she had no respect, right? She also talked about being the oldest woman on that set, the oldest black woman on that set, and there was not this respect factor for her. Now, for those that are not in the black community, baby, we respect our elders. Okay, we don't play about that. Our mom and them don't raise us to just be out here going off cussing at old folks and stuff like that. And she wasn't old at the time, but there's a respect factor that we just have in our community, and I'm sure other communities do as well. But it's a specific dynamic in our community that we show respect to our elders. So Sis was saying that she did not feel that she had that on the set. Layer or coupling that with being in an abusive relationship with her husband with a newborn, real life stressors. And let's be real, we just started making space for mental health all of 2.5 seconds ago. So what she was really dealing with was real world stuff that we are actually going to be talking about more here on Beneath the Surface. But what she got was not compassion and empathy on that set because no one had the real awareness to be looking at her and even to value her and value her experience, especially being a black woman and even more so being a dark-skinned black woman. Let's pause and take a quick break so I can give a shout out to our sponsor for this segment of Beneath the Surface. She Publishing LLC. Baby, we love to see it. Not only are they sponsoring this show, but they sent me a little something. Let's take a look. Every time I try to open packages, something always happens. I mean, okay, now I need to be too deep now. All right. Oh. Let's see what we got from She Publishing. We have to shout out She Publishing again because this publishing company is owned by a black woman. So we love to see black women out here creating businesses and doing that thing. Oh, baby, confetti. Wait a minute now. Okay, surprise. Okay, so we have a little notepad here. We love that. It says, She Publishing LLC, share your story with the world. Okay, definitely going to use this as a journal of some sort. I needed me a new journal, so, I might write my sermons. My pastor preaching down in this one I got to see. And then also, okay, so this is from their author and owner. Come on, author and the owner of She Publishing LLC. Let's get the book. Now, the book is called Boss Rules. Get into that. Boss Rules. Yes. By Sharaka M. Leonard. We love to see it. Yeah, I'm going to have to dive into this book and tell y'all what I think about it. Okay, Boss Rules. Real quick, Boss Rule number 10. Be ready, stay ready, and move with intent. Oh, I'm going to have to get into this. I'm definitely going to have to get into this. We'll do another video and tell you what I think of the book. But we definitely have to give a shout out to our sponsor for this video, She Publishing LLC. Thank you so much. Once more, shout out to She's Publishing LLC. We see y'all over there doing it, sis. We see y'all. But like I was saying before, Janet did not have a space or didn't have anyone that was willing to show her compassion and empathy. And so as they get to the third season of the show, which she details, she says that the executives, offered her a bad deal and she walked away from it. And so she ended up quitting the show. Well, the story back then was that she got fired, which again was another kiss of death for her career. Dark-skinned black woman, you're difficult on set, and they had to fire you. We're not working with you in Hollywood. We could see how that would be traumatic. I think the most poignant part of the conversation between Will Smith and Janet Hubert was when she asked, why did they go so far? And she told us how she lost so much, how she lost her home. She lost the marriage. Yes, she was in an abusive relationship, but we still, again, making space for people and understanding people in domestic violence situations, even when they get out, they still have to grieve not only the abuse, but they have to grieve the death of a marriage, right? Or death of a partnership, of what they thought it was going to be. So dealing with that, dealing with the newborn, dealing with the loss of income from the show, dealing with her reputation being sullied, this Juilliard classically trained dancer, actor, singer being this thing, right, being thrown away and cast aside, dealing with the world turning on her, dealing with the black community turning on her. She said she lost everything. And I just thought that was very powerful, and it made me retrospect. Yeah, I was a kid at this time, but I obviously wasn't thinking about that. But how much pain has this woman been in for years? Where would her career, have been had she chosen not to take that role and went and continued on whatever route, she was in? She could have been in a very different space today. Even more so, what would have happened if they actually had compassion and empathy on her at the time and we valued people at the time? Now, we can't go back and redo the past, but I say that to put into context the type of life that she has lived post Fresh Prince, when everybody else on the cast, particularly Will Smith, has gone on to live a quote unquote good life. Obviously, there's still challenges in the background, but what we're seeing in the front and in the public eye, we could say a quote unquote good life. But this woman has had to deal with that, has had to sit with that, and literally lost the thing that she was working for. I thought it was also extremely poignant that she said that her family said, she had disgraced them. She was a public pariah, and her family cast her aside, which had to be painful as well. So you lost the job, you lost the husband. She said she lost her home, probably because of the reduction of income. You lost the home, and then your family turns your back on you. Then your black community already, it's a struggle being a black woman, period, and then being a black, dark-skinned woman in the industry. She was alone. Alone. So what I think is we need to learn the lessons of the past. We need to sit in that and recognize when we have underserved, underprivileged, devalued people in our systems and society or in spheres of influence that we move in, that we see them, that we make room for them, especially if you are a person that has a voice and you're a person that has power in that situation, to create space for everyone. I love that the two reconciled. If you watch the Red Table Talk, which I highly encourage you all watch the Red Table Talk, Will Smith sits down with the psychologist and kind of unpacks that whole thing and his psyche and to why he was even funny and why he even had to set that way, because he comes from an abusive background, and because his father used to abuse his mother. And his creation of Will Smith was to really entertain his father, because as long as his father was entertaining, as long as his father was laughing and happy and looking, at Will, he wasn't abusing his mother. And so they walk through that whole dynamic of why comedy and people laughing at whatever Will did meant safety for him. And so he had, like, the set was always full of laughs, and because he was always cracking jokes and getting the crowd hype. But you have a real woman over here going through real pain who doesn't have the time to laugh at your jokes because she's going through some real stuff back here. She's getting abused at home. It's some real stuff happening. And so you see the clash in the two peoples, right? Where one is trying to create an atmosphere of liveliness and hilariousness and laughter, because that creates safety for him. It's not even for everybody else. That's how he feels safe. And you have someone who's not laughing. So he viewed her as a threat, right? Because she wasn't playing into what he needed, which is totally valid in the sense of his own psyche. And there's some unpacking that needed to be done then that he's doing now. But you see the dynamic of the clashes of people not seeing each other, people not seeing each other's experiences and not valuing what the other person is going through. But unfortunately, only one of them, the black woman, was hurt in the process of how everything unfolded. I am pleased to see that they reconciled. I am so grateful to see that they really had a moment. I thought it was so great when they hugged and she was like, "You still feel," he was like, "What? Like I'm a kid?" And she was like, "Yeah." And what I saw in that moment was not that everything had been wiped away, because obviously, you still have to unpack and you still have to work through something after you forgive somebody to make sure y'all don't fall into those same roles. But it was almost like a reset. Like when they hugged and they embraced after they talked everything, it's like they can now go where they were in their relationship when it was good and pick up. That's what it felt like to me. And I love that moment. Like I got some goosebumps right now because I really loved that moment, because you could literally see the reset happening, right? And the relationship that they're going to build out from here. I thought it was interesting in the Red Table Talk, at the end of it, Will Smith did say, "Janet, I'll text you after this," right? So it seems as though, they're working on their relationship. Now, what I will say is Sis, lost everything. Like she said, her career was totally damaged. I think Sis needs some compensation. Me personally, I think Sis needs some compensation, right? Now that we know this, no, we can't go back and change anything, but think about the income that she lost over all these years, whether that be the remaining seasons, because there were a couple more seasons after she left, and also what about future opportunities, right? Everybody else in the cast got other opportunities after the show. Well, Sis was blackballed, so she didn't. So I think Will Smith needs to cut her a check. That's just me. I don't know the dollar amount. I have an idea where they can start. I mean, I definitely think, I think in this idea of reconciliation, and this could even play into race relations, right? And reparations for black people. But you got to make the parties whole as best you can. And so what I think, because this was a professional setting, right? It may be a little different in individual relationships, and like, okay, if my mom did something that I didn't like, how does she repair? She would repair that by apologizing and change behavior, right? But this was a personal relationship. It also had, this was a business relationship, right? They were actors on a set and they had a personal relationship under it. So with the business, right? I think Janet should be compensated whatever the replacement Aunt Viv, or let me not say replacement, the second Aunt Viv, because we stay in second Aunt Viv too. Whatever she got for those remaining seasons, Janet need that check. Whatever residuals the second Aunt Viv has gotten all these years for those other seasons, Will Smith need to cut that check. Find out how much second Aunt Viv got, and Will Smith need to cut that check too. Because those would have been, if there was some compassion going on, if people could see each other, sis would be still getting those residuals to this day, right? Loss of income, potential career trajectory after it was derailed. I don't know how you factor that in, but have an economist or somebody sit down and factor up some numbers, draw up some numbers. We'll need to cut that check. That's just what I think. Now, that's just what I think. I can't tell Will Smith what to do. That's his money. That's his pocket. She may not even be asking that, but I just think in the reconciliation, this was this woman's career. That I feel like that's only right that she get that. And then here's a hope from somebody who don't have nothing to do with this situation. Absolutely nothing to do with this situation, but I think would just be beautiful if Tyler Perry brought her on to one of his projects. To kind of, we've seen Tyler Perry do this. Again, Tyler Perry don't have nothing to do with this situation, but we've seen Tyler Perry do this, going to get older actors from our childhoods or well, my childhood, because I was a kid at that time, or older, and trying to bring them back when they're, falling on hard times or wherever the case may be, and try to reintegrate them back into the industry if that's what they want through some of his projects. I think that would be lovely. I think that would just be magnificent. Like, if Tyler Perry were to do that. Again, he don't have to. Tyler Perry don't have nothing to do with this. But I think that would just be beautiful. But I do think Will Smith, along with this reconciliation and apologizing, you gonna have to cut sis some checks. I'm just saying, I think that's just only right. I would love to know what you all think about this whole episode. Whether it be, protecting Black women, and how do we continue to do that, and pushing even further. All women, right? But I am specifically talking about Black women, because even in the hierarchy of Black people, I know that there's a privilege in my maleness that I still have a certain privilege over a Black woman, right? And so I want to use my power and my space and my influence to lift those up and bring them with me as I go forward. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments about that. I'd love to know your thoughts about the Will Smith, not the Will Smith, but the Fresh Prince reunion. That would be dope. What are your comments? And I would even like to know your thoughts on their reconciliation, and if it's inspired you, because I have seen on social media, some people have said that moment has inspired them to reconcile with some people in their life. And that's it for this episode of Beneath the Surface. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, and cut on your post notifications so that you always get alerted when I drop some new content.